My name is Luna, and until my 29th birthday, I believed family was the one thing money could never buy or destroy. For years, I had worked harder than anyone around me. While my friends spent weekends traveling, I worked overtime. I skipped expensive vacations, drove an old car, and saved every extra dollar. After nearly 8 years of sacrifice, I finally achieved my dream of buying my own apartment in downtown Seattle. It wasn't a mansion, but every wall, every piece of furniture, and every decoration represented years of determination. My parents congratulated me, but I noticed something strange. My younger brother, Ethan, barely spoke to me after I moved in. He had always depended on our parents to solve his problems. He quit jobs regularly, spent money carelessly, and believed someone would always rescue him. Whenever I tried to have your son change the locks at her apartment before she gets home, I stopped breathing. Dad answered in an equally low voice. Are you sure? Luna will be furious. She'll calm down eventually, Mom whispered. Ethan has nowhere to go. She doesn't need that apartment all to herself. Every word struck me like a knife. They were talking about my apartment. The apartment I had bought with my own salary. I remained hidden for a few seconds, trying to convince myself I had misunderstood. But then Mom continued. I already gave Ethan her spare key. He'll replace the locks tonight while we're still at dinner. My heart pounded so loudly I thought they would hear it. I forced myself to smile, walked back to the table, and acted as if nothing had happened. My mother handed me a birthday gift and kissed my forehead. I looked into her eyes, wondering how someone could smile so warmly while secretly planning to steal my home. Dinner ended with everyone singing happy birthday. I thanked them. I hugged them. I even posed for family photos. Inside, however, I was already making a plan. Instead of driving home immediately, I parked a few blocks away and opened the security camera app connected to my apartment. At exactly 9:17 p.m., Ethan appeared on the screen. He unlocked my front door using the spare key. Minutes later, he carried a toolbox inside. He wasn't visiting. He was replacing my locks, just as Mom had planned. My hands shook, but I refused to cry. Instead, I called the police. Then I contacted an emergency locksmith and rushed toward my apartment. By the time I arrived, 2 police officers were already speaking with Ethan. He looked shocked to see me. Luna, he stammered, Mom and Dad said. I don't care what they said, I interrupted firmly. This apartment belongs to me. The officers examined my ownership documents and immediately ordered Ethan to stop. Watching my brother escorted out of my apartment on my birthday was something I never imagined. But the greatest pain wasn't losing trust in Ethan. It was realizing that my own parents had planned the betrayal together. Standing alone in my living room after everyone left, I locked the door behind me. For the first time since buying my dream home, it no longer felt completely safe. The morning after my birthday, I woke up exhausted. I hadn't slept for more than an hour. Every time I closed my eyes, I replayed my mother's whisper and watched Ethan walking into my apartment with that toolbox. It felt like a nightmare, except every second of it was real. By 8 a.m., my phone wouldn't stop ringing. The first call came from my mother. Luna, what were you thinking? She shouted the moment I answered. How could you call the police on your own brother? I took a deep breath. How could you try to steal my apartment? There was silence for a moment. We weren't stealing it, she replied defensively. We were helping Ethan. You're doing well. He has nothing. So your solution was to take everything I worked for? Dad got on the phone next. You embarrassed this family, he said. People will think we're criminals. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. No, Dad, I answered calmly. People will think you're criminals because you tried to take property that doesn't belong to you. Before he could respond, I ended the call. Throughout the day, relatives began contacting me. My aunt told me I should forgive Ethan because family comes first. My cousin said I was lucky enough to own an apartment while Ethan was struggling. Not one of them asked how I felt after discovering my own parents had betrayed me. I realized something painful. My parents had already told everyone their version of the story. That evening, I invited Mom, Dad, and Ethan to my apartment for one final conversation. When they arrived, Ethan refused to look at me. Mom crossed her arms while Dad stared at the floor. I didn't waste time. On the dining table, I placed every document related to my apartment, the purchase agreement, mortgage papers, bank statements, and years of savings records. I earned every dollar, I said. No one helped me buy this home. Mom sighed. Luna, you're single. One day you'll get married and move away. Ethan needs stability now. Her words hurt more than I expected. So because I'm your daughter, my future matters less? She didn't answer. Instead, Ethan finally spoke. I thought you would understand, he muttered. Mom said you'd eventually let me live here anyway. I looked directly into his eyes. You never asked. He lowered his head. I trusted all of you, I continued. Instead of asking for help, you made a plan behind my back. You gave away my spare key, entered my home without permission, and tried to lock me out of the place I spent years earning. The room became painfully quiet. Then I reached into a folder and handed each of them an envelope. Inside was a formal notice from my attorney stating that no one in my family had permission to enter my property without my consent. I had also changed every lock, canceled every spare key, and upgraded my security system. Dad's face turned pale. Luna, you hired a lawyer? Yes, I answered firmly. Because family should protect you, not make you fear coming home. Mom began to cry, but her tears no longer changed my mind. As they walked toward the door, I realized something important. Sometimes the hardest decision isn't walking away from strangers. It's walking away from the people who were supposed to love you the most. 3 months passed after the confrontation, and for the first time in years, my apartment truly felt like home again. The silence that had once reminded me of betrayal now brought peace. I redecorated every room, planted flowers on the balcony, and filled the walls with photographs of the people who genuinely loved and respected me. Slowly, I stopped expecting an apology that might never come. My parents tried contacting me several times, but I wasn't ready. They left voice messages saying they missed me and wanted to talk, yet none of those messages included the words, "We're sorry." They wanted everything to return to normal without taking responsibility for what they had done. One afternoon, there was a knock at my door. When I looked through the peephole, I saw my father standing alone. He looked older than I remembered. His shoulders were slumped, and his confident expression had disappeared. I opened the door just enough to speak. Dad? He looked at me with tears in his eyes. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, he said quietly. But I need you to know how sorry I am. For a moment, neither of us spoke. He admitted that my mother had convinced him they were doing the right thing by helping Ethan. Instead of questioning her decision, he had gone along with the plan because he believed keeping peace in the family was more important than protecting me. I failed you, he whispered. A father should protect his daughter, not help take away her home. Hearing those words didn't erase the pain, but they were the first honest apology I had received. I invited him inside for coffee. We talked for hours about the past, about the mistakes our family had made, and about how favoritism had slowly destroyed the trust between us. Dad confessed that Ethan had continued making poor decisions even after the incident. He had refused several job offers, expecting someone else to rescue him again. I finally realized, Dad admitted, that helping him by taking from you wasn't helping him at all. I nodded. Real love doesn't steal from one child to reward another. Before leaving, Dad hugged me tightly. "I'll spend the rest of my life earning back your trust," he promised. Weeks later, I received another surprise. A local newspaper featured my story after hearing about the attempted takeover of my apartment. They praised the importance of protecting property rights and standing up against emotional manipulation, even when it comes from family. Hundreds of readers shared similar experiences, thanking me for speaking out. For the first time, I realized I wasn't alone. My story gave others the courage to set healthy boundaries and protect themselves. On my 30th birthday, I celebrated quietly with close friends who had supported me through everything. As I blew out the candles, I made one simple wish, not for wealth, success, or revenge, but for peace. Looking around the room, I smiled. I had lost the illusion of a perfect family, but I had found something far more valuable: self-respect. That birthday taught me the most important lesson of my life. Family is not defined by blood. Family is made up of the people who protect your dreams instead of trying to take them away. And from that day forward, I promised myself that no matter who stood against me, I would never again apologize for protecting the life I had worked so hard to build.